Hey guys, this video is going to be a bit hard because where the hell do I even start? We all as artists know things are different, bad different, and in a lot of ways I feel like it's actually hard to tell why. I mean, ultimately, what the hell happened? Why has the glass ceiling for gaining a following and getting your name out there via social media seemingly become brick? Thought it might be cathartic for me and maybe useful for you to share my experiences and thoughts on the situation of there barely being any place artists can really go online anymore, from the perspective of a, quote, small artist. Before we get started though, I just want to let you guys know that my commissions are open! If y'all are interested in having me draw some fan art or OCs, my email is in the description. Y'all can just shoot me a message. You can also check out my other socials in my channel description to get a feel for my art style. My prices are in a pinned post on Instagram, but you can also just email or DM me, and I'll quote you a price for whatever you want. I'm not gonna lie, I'm trying to make sure my partner and I can move out into our own place after I graduate, and I'm gonna be entering the wonderful world of paying my own health insurance since my dependent coverage terminates a few years earlier than most. So having this little extra bit is a big help. Alright, enough shilling, let's get on with it. I started posting my art on Instagram around 2018. It was pretty much once in a blue moon, and I wasn't at all doing anything to grow or really taking it seriously. Then I started posting Good Omens animatics and a couple of simple sketch comics on YouTube and Tumblr. That's when I really got a taste of what I could achieve if I applied myself. My animatics honestly looked like ass in my self-critical opinion, but at least one did pretty respectable numbers, and it wasn't even finished. Those are still up on my channel if you all want to join me in laughing at my awkward teenage art. The first post of mine that, quote, blew up was a Good Omens comic about them as flower kids at Aziraphale and Crowley's wedding. Back then, and honestly even now kind of, 1,000 notes felt like being internet famous. I had a lull in my admittedly accidental growth for a few years when I just had a lot going on in my life and wasn't that motivated to draw. Then along came these little shits. Joining the Sam & Max fandom as an artist is still one of the best experiences I've had with social media. It all had this small town vibe while still being big enough to have plenty of content. I made a lot of friends there, whereas before I never even spoke to anyone online. I should probably note though, my definition of friend online is pretty different than most people's. I pretty much mean that I had small fandom related chats with the same group of people and we gassed up each other's art regularly. It's also when my Instagram account genuinely started growing, and I continuously made an active effort to maintain that. My animatics popped off pretty good too, and one is even my channel trailer, so that's neat. Eventually that era had to end, and guess who came bursting in like the Kool-Aid Man? Oh. Yeah, anyone who's been here in the past year or so knows how near and dear our flag bean's death is to me. Long story short, the good times kept on rolling in the art department. I made friends in both art and meta writing. I was hurtling my way towards 500 followers, and then one day a post got 80 likes and stayed like that. By then I had gotten to the point where anything below 100 was unheard of for anything fan related. Not so much for OCs. Pretty typical experience. But I immediately noticed and came to the conclusion that I was shadow banned. I played the game, took the advice of some forums, and stopped posting for a bit, then came back swinging. My numbers after that were spotty, but not consistently bad. Then after a certain point, you know the drill, everything basically just slowed to a crawl and never got back up. Even my fan art was lucky to have 50 people interact with it. Nowadays, it's kind of lucky to have 20 or 30. The follower count on what was once my most successful platform has been sitting at around 470 to 480 for over a year. I'm not gonna lie, I did a stupid and let it affect my self-esteem as an artist. I felt like shit. I entirely thought it was just me and the internet at large had just suddenly decided my work was boring and worthless. Dramatic? Yes, but that's what anxiety will do to you. I was so far up my own self-hating ass for so long that I didn't notice that this was happening to basically most other artists on Instagram. And honestly, everywhere else that isn't a video sharing platform eventually. Pretty much nobody was getting any sort of traction or the numbers they used to. Why is this? Let's talk algorithms. So I'm not gonna lie, I don't know exactly how they work. I'm just stumbling around in the dark like everyone else is. But here's what I've noticed and remember. Shortly before my numbers stagnated, Instagram made a major change in its system that we all immediately realized would be a problem. They removed the Recents tab on search. This, in my humble opinion, pretty single-handedly kicked off the downfall of Instagram as a viable platform for smaller artists to become not small artists. Without a recents tab, only artists who already have a big following don't have their posts completely buried. It's not that those artists aren't lovely, talented people who deserve to be seen, but it does create a situation where the art scene on Instagram just kind of cannibalizes itself on the same few dozen or so users in each niche, with new voices being practically impossible to make out. People also started noticing that their followers' feed was becoming less and less chronological. So now not only do you not get new eyes on your work, even your current follower base isn't seeing anything from you. This can cause them to just completely forget you exist and even unfollow. And I wish I could go through every platform and explain what went wrong in detail, but I just don't know that much about them. But I think it's safe to say Twitter's problem is Elon Musk, and Tumblr's NSFW ban nuked a lot of the user base a while ago. YouTube and TikTok seem to be the only ones still going strong, but like I said, not every artist makes video content, and they shouldn't have to. Hey, so additional last-minute recording Elliot here. When I wrote this script, it kind of just seemed like rumors, but now by the time this video actually comes out, there's a very good chance that TikTok is already gone. Fortunately, I kind of just started trying to make TikTok work, so I only have a handful of followers there, but others aren't so lucky. And many have just lost out on a big chunk of their income, if not all of it. This, to me, on the artist side of things, is just the latest example of how options for us online just keep dwindling and dwindling. I mean, I only listed 2 truly viable equal opportunity platforms left that are proven to have some staying power, and one of them is already gone. And if it's not, then yippee! Mocktails all around! Praise friggin' be! Disregard this whole section and go about the video. I think it's also more than worth noting the absolute invasion of AI art, finger quotes, please hear them in my voice, permeating all of these spaces. Now, not only do we have to deal with the even more exasperated challenges of growing a following, we also have to deal with people being suspicious that our work can actually be AI, because the untrained eye can't really tell the difference nowadays. And people devaluing us even more because of the perception that anyone can now make the same product in seconds, which they can't. Not really. Because the worst thing is having to worry about your art being stolen without your consent to teach an AI bot how to plagiarize you. Everything that comes out of AI had to come from somewhere. It's not actually alive, no matter what the tech bros want you to think, because the best way to sell you something is to appeal to your pathos. The final nail in the coffin for many on Instagram is when they started letting Meta take over like a frickin' dystopian supercomputer. I mean, shit, you can't even use a search bar in peace anymore. And guess what? Surprise! Everything you post on their site is now used to feed this stupid thing. As you guys probably remember, this caused the mass exodus to Newcomer Kara several months ago. We'll touch a little bit more on that later. The point is, AI art is stolen art. It's lazy, skeevy, terrible for the environment, and it cannot be ignored when having any sort of discussion on why the state of art and social media is kind of ass right now. It may sound like I'm overreacting, but guys, seriously, this is not something we can just let go or be lazy about speaking up against. It's been an uphill battle to keep AI from replacing hardworking artists in industry spaces for a good long while now. The right to only have AI used with the writer's express consent and for employers to not force them to use it was actually one of the big wins that came out of the writer's strike negotiations about a year ago. As for us, well, let's just say some pretty high-up people openly hope to soon be rid of storyboard artists altogether by using AI instead. You don't have to pay an AI a salary. And I know we're not supposed to think or care about numbers, and you might be thinking, wow, Elliot, you sound really chronically online, but this stuff actually matters. The last thing I want to do is sound resentful. I'm really not. But I can't help but notice most of the people talking about how artists should free themselves from social media either already managed to gather a sizable following before shit hit the fan, or are traditional artists with more ample business opportunities in person locally, like local art galleries that tend not to be super friendly to digital art. If I were to say one thing to these artists, I would say, I know where you're coming from, and if you can manage it, I totally agree with you. But there's a good chance you're speaking from a place of privilege. We can't just throw up our hands and give up on the internet as artists as much as many of us would like to. Most of us still rely on it for pretty much every stage of reaching a professional level, from finding a concentrated population of customers to promotion to actually doing the selling. All in all, though, no singular dramatic thing really happened. And that's the sad thing about it. This is how the art internet ends. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. And the scope of this video is just about the internet. We're not even talking about the actual professional industry and how animators have been dealing with increasingly ridiculous working conditions, unfair wages, and basically no job security for years now. If you want to hear about that, I'm not the guy for the job. It's kind of already all up in flames and I haven't even graduated college. Okay, so enough moaning and groaning. What the hell do we do? Well, sorry to disappoint you, but I don't have the answer. What I can tell you is what I've learned, and more accurately, what I'm learning. First, for fuck's sake, your self-worth is your most precious resource. You may not have the luxury to not care about the numbers, but you gotta have the self-respect to keep going in spite of them. Keep making art, keep posting, keep trying to find what will work for you in this quiet post-apocalypse of sorts. For me personally, I found comfort and purpose in my original characters, something I never really was confident about before. It's easy for me to stay motivated because I want to see this story. And guess what? It doesn't exist. So if I want that sweet, sweet content, it's all up to me. On the subject, don't slow down. If you can, keep posting as much as you did when things were good. You may have to tweak your strategies or roll with the punches, but it's already tough to gain new followers and keep your current following. You don't want to make things worse by getting discouraged and letting things completely slip to the wayside. This was my biggest mistake at the start of things, and I've recently been trying to rebuild. Let's take that pin out of Kara and talk about it and Blue Sky. Kara and Blue Sky are some newcomers on the scene designed to kind of replace Instagram and Twitter respectively. When Instagram pulled the meta crap, a huge influx of artists moved to Kara, a small platform still in beta, but one that was armed with strong anti-AI policies and protections, and was made to cater specifically to them. Blue Sky is a similar story, except it's marketed for everyone, and I think people just mostly wanted to get away from Elon Musk. We also now gotta talk about Neptune, which isn't out yet at the time of this recording, but word on TikTok ban Panic Talk is that it's the new up-and-comer to replace TikTok. Also run by a small business type entity, similarly to Kara. I'm not gonna lie, it does look promising. Its aim is to specifically work like TikTok, but incorporate features that would try to mitigate problems with these big platforms that we've been having for years. One of them is the option to customize the exact ratio of feed types, like for you, followers, etc., which is something I don't think we've ever really seen before, and I'm excited to see how it goes. But like the others, it's promising with the caveat that it won't just immediately blow up to the same fame as TikTok and to give us tons and tons of engagement, and everything is solved and perfect right out of the gate. And as for Red Note, man, I don't know, I have no damn idea if it's good for artists. But please, I implore you guys to go find out. I'm loving this impromptu little cultural exchange, and either way, it's just so fucking funny. This country was founded on the F you, don't tell us what to do philosophy. They tried to just straight up take out the Chinese competition, and we were having it so hard that 20-year-olds are now learning Mandarin en masse. I think we America'd too close to the sun. My advice is, make these platforms part of your roster, but don't expect them to be your saviors. No matter how much we all raise our pitchforks, Instagram and Twitter are still behemoths in comparison. It's a really great chance you'll get even less engagement on Kara and Blue Sky. But the thing is, that'll be because the platform is in infancy, not because some corporate mega brands are trying to do everything in their power to make an extra dollar by alienating us. Don't get discouraged. Think of these platforms as a house you get for dirt cheap because it's half finished. It's up to all of us to work together and nurture them if we want to truly have a new home. And let's just remember, the internet hasn't been the same forever. It's entirely possible we could just be going through a transitional period. And just like being in between jobs, these times always suck. But remember when we thought Vine and MySpace were gonna be forever? Well, maybe not MySpace for me because it was before my time, but you get the point. Things change, and we can adapt. Something else is not to be afraid of working towards larger goals. A lot of people, unfortunately myself included, use their social media as a metric of their success, so much so that they feel like they don't have permission to be ambitious until they have a certain number of followers. I recently just started actually for real drawing my webcomic, and this isn't a plug because it won't be out for a few months yet, but I'm more excited about my art than I have been in a long time. If you're doing a page format like I am, you can submit to publishing companies like any other aspiring author. There's nothing stopping you but your own self-consciousness. It definitely helps to have a large following already when going into print like Heartstopper or Laura Olympus, but it's not the end-all be-all. Think of all the graphic novels out there that are just regular, non-internet famous series that a publisher just thought would be lucrative to sell. Knowing that no matter what happens, I'm working on something that could put me on the professional level I crave is really lighting a fire under my ass more than any hemming and hawing over not being good enough yet ever has. And for you, that can look different. Maybe you put your focus on curating the perfect portfolio, or take advantage of the indie animation boom and set your sights on a web series pilot with a Kickstarter to make more episodes. Almost no matter what, though, it's gonna be a lot of hard work for a long-ass time for pretty much no pay. But be honest with yourself, did you really think at any point that that wasn't what you were signing up for? No one's making you do it. It's understandable if you decide being a professional artist isn't right for you, or if it wears you down too much and you can't take it. Otherwise, keep your day job and go get him, Tiger. So that's basically what I got. Like I said, I wish I had more answers. I'm sure we all wish we did. I just wanted to share my own experiences and the realizations I've come to having to go through this period of time, and hopefully it's helped somebody. Because I genuinely thought all this frustration and defeat was entirely my fault, and I felt a lot less alone when people actually started talking about it. I think all of you are so freaking cool, and I never want the online art scene to die or become completely inaccessible. Keep creating, take care, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!